Hello everyone, Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest look to finally get their season on track with consecutive Premier League home games, starting with the visit of Manchester United on Saturday. We'll preview that game in full and discuss the Morgan Gibbs-White comments that have split opinion online in the company of, first of all, Emily Williamson. Emily, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah, hair's looking good.
Thank you. You said it twice. You said it before we went live and you said it again, so that's even better. Thank you very much.
Sharp.
Good to have you with us. Pete Blackburn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I've got a crooked neck, so I'm feeling like a geriatric person, well ahead of my years, but I'm all right otherwise.
And your hair's looking good.
Hobbling around like a bit of a mess, but yeah, I'm all right.
Oh.
You got a dog with you as well?
Yeah, she's just come to say hello.
I thought you had. Otherwise, it was a bit weird that you were reaching out, stroking something while you were talking. So I'm glad it's a dog.
Let's not comment any further on that.
No, it's all gone a bit Morley-esque at the start there. Mikey Clark, afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I've got an Indianapolis Colts top on today, so this is one of my teams that are actually doing well. So they're top of our league. So I thought I'd rep them for today and obviously get talking about Forest, who are doing not so well.
Statistically, one of your teams will be doing well because you support that many teams in that many sports that one of them had to be doing well. So, yeah, there you go. Good to have you with us anyway. Right. Normally, we would just go straight into the game and I would say, what are your general to one of the panelists? But following on from the show the other night, we talked a lot about the relegation battle and we ended up having an interesting debate in our WhatsApp group with two people who were pretty chilled about it and then others who were like more worried, basically. So I just wanted to kind of resurrect it here and gauge the temperature of everyone on this panel today. Emily, you said Pete was the voice of reason. So are you not worried at all about relegation, or am I putting words in your mouth there?
No, you're not putting words in my mouth. Of course, I'm worried about relegation. I'm worried about relegation every season because it's the last thing we want from our club. And, you know, if I'm honest, deep down, there is that horrible little niggle of what if it's this year? What if this year's the year that we do go down? But quite frankly, where we are in the season, the what's happened recently with the managerial changes, everything that we've already talked about, it feels way too early to be worrying about relegation. Had you said this to me possibly at the end of Ange's era, which I know was very, very short, I'd be more negative about it, I think, because as much as I supported him while he was our manager, you know, in hindsight, it was a bad fit. It didn't work, but we need to sort of forget about that and move on. I was at the Porto game, which felt like, for me, we were starting to get our Forest back. It felt the crowd felt like they were on side with Sean Dyche and his team. We obviously got the results. Bournemouth probably brought us straight back down to reality again. But again, I feel like he had a couple of days with the squad, no time to train, trip to Bournemouth, never going to be easy. They're our bogey team. We need to get over it. And I know we didn't create chances, and you know we've talked about that. But I feel like I'm at the stage now where I think we'll know over the next month or so how it's probably going to pan out, because Sean Dyche will get some proper time working with the squad. He'll work out which players he likes, what squad he's going to use for Europe, who he's going to use for the Premier League. So at the moment, I feel quite positive, actually. I get it. I get why a lot of us are worried about relegation. And I know Mark Southern said, didn't he, that he thinks at this stage we probably will get relegated. But I think it's too early to say whether we will or not. And I really do genuinely believe in Sean Dyche. And I really hope he can get this squad together. And I believe he will.
Yeah, I think Mark's position is, as we're here right now, all the numbers, and I've got a stat later from Mark, say that, you know, we're a relegation team, but he thinks it can change quickly. And I think, I've already said my piece, I think it will change, but more slowly. And by like game 30, we'll feel better. But it's going to be a long winter because there's a lot of work to do. But ultimately, I think we'll be okay. Mikey, so are you more in my camp or are you more in Emily's camp? Although I think our camps aren't that different, really.
I feel like we're in similar camps, Matt.
Yeah,
I feel
think
like
we are, really.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just Pete I disagreed with. We'll get to Pete. Mikey, how are you feeling?
It's the Venn diagram. We all overlap, don't we? Let's be honest. Where am I at the moment? Just before I answer that, I will say that the last couple of podcasts I've really enjoyed. I caught up on them this morning. So Henry Winter was really good, really calm, collected, forward thinking. He's great. Listen to him. And then you got the questions with Rob and Mark. And Mark made some great points, as you were saying, Matt, about the numbers don't lie at the moment. But I just think we've had really traumatic 4, 5, 6 weeks. And as Emily was saying, hopefully we've broke the back of that now. We've got a new management team in. The feel-good factor was back at the Porto game. Let's not forget that, just because we had a bad result on at the weekend against Bournemouth. So I think the next couple of games are going to tell us a lot, because if we take that trajectory that we saw from Porto into the Man United game and into a huge six-pointer in November, blimey, but it's true, huge six-pointer against Leeds, if we get 2 positive results out of them, then we're on the up. It's just been an awful, awful start. And yes, the metrics don't lie. And if we hadn't have made that change in the leadership, and if we hadn't have got that feel-good factor back at Forest, and I watched Wolves the other day, and that is completely the opposite end of the scale. So is West Ham. So there's clubs that are fighting around with us that they're not aligned. I feel like we are now. So it's onwards and upwards for me. It's just been an awful start, but hopefully we're going to look back in 4 to 6 weeks' time and we broke the back of it. We've got some good results. We start utilising this squad of ours. No point spending 200 million quid on players and playing the same team every week in, week out. So I want to see that utilised over the next couple of weeks. And I think we'll be all right. But one more thing, I do get it when people look at the table and see we've scored like 5 goals in 8 games. We're in the bottom 3. I get why people are nervous, because I am. But I did see enough against Porto, and I do think we've made the right decisions. But the proof will be in the pudding. So we've just got to all get behind the team, get behind Dyche. Let's get some results that start on Saturday. Let's turn Man United over, because they don't like it coming down our place. You know, every year they seem to do this Saturday.
Yeah, my Wolves fans already have John Textor as owner, so it must be really grim for them. That's
No,
super right.
Wow.
They really hate Fossen. But you can see why. I mean, you could argue they're asset stripping that club. That's a different conversation on a different.
Yeah, John Textor's got no form on that sort of side of things.
I said do some googling on him. Anyway,
well, at least it'll be someone else for us to sell a few players for overinflated fees.
So where are you at on this, Pete and Pete's dog? Because you said to me it was mad to be amping up the pressure on relegation talk at this stage. So is that your vibe, or are you more sympathetic to the people like Mikey who's referenced?
I'm not convinced any of us are that far apart, to be honest. I mean, it's pretty obvious and blatantly so that if you look at the league table, we're 18th for a reason. We've won 1 game in 9, and that is obviously relegation form. So I don't think it's particularly unusual for someone like Mark to be saying that the data suggests that we're in real trouble. You know, we're where we deserve to be right now. What I think about it, though, is that that period of 9 games, it covers a period of unbelievable chaos and uncertainty and an absolute mess of decision-making and a catalogue of errors from various people at the football club and the managers and all sorts of things. And I'm rather hopeful that the rest of the season won't include many of those things, which is more than 3/4 of the rest of the season. So I think after 9 games, to be talking about, you know, being definitely in a relegation battle or that we are going to go down or any of that sort of stuff just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Clearly, all of the metrics need to change. But given that we've got, as I say, more than 3/4 of the season to go, and we've got a manager who does know how to operate in the division, you know, regardless of where you stand on him in a more general sense and whether you would have wanted him to take the job or whatever, we are where we are in a very difficult position. And there are not many people who have more experience of operating in these areas in the Premier League. We also have a really good squad. I'm concerned that there may be, you know, cultural elements to some of this underperformance and our struggles in terms of, you know, having gone from a very small, tight squad to a very big, very sort of disparate squad, and lots of people not getting minutes at the moment, and perhaps all of the sort of uncertainty and the perhaps unhappiness that comes with that. We've obviously got key players really heavily underperforming, but I just don't believe after 9 games and 9 games that our current manager's only managed 2 of, that it makes sense to extrapolate what we've seen in the past and carry it into the future. My feeling is that, you know, we've had 2 games under Dyche. I thought one of them was tremendously promising and showed lots of positives, and the other one was an absolutely mess of a performance against the side who are flying high and are the best that they've ever been right now. I don't think it was massively surprising. and I thought we looked knackered, and we're going to have to address some of those problems. I just don't see why we would all be happy to sort of pile on the pressure and talk about relegation at this point when there is so much time to go. Plenty of teams have climbed out of a position like this before, and most of them didn't have the sort of quality that we have. So it may be that I'm a bit complacent. I don't think I am personally. I'm aware that we're right in the mire, but I just believe that we should have too much, and hopefully we will.
The thing that sparked it was I dropped a tweet in, Fritz, the Polymarket probability of relegation. So I think it's like aggregated betting markets, effectively. And they rank the relegation statistics as follows. Wolves, 70% chance of going down. Burnley, 66%. West Ham, 58%. Leeds, 35%. And then Forest, 29%. So 7 times out of 10, effectively, we stay up. So the numbers and the odds are on our side still very much, and lots to play for. Starting against Manchester United on Saturday, Emily. Now we will do our normal starts of the podcast. What are your general thoughts on this game?
Mikey sort of alluded to it, didn't he, saying that Man United hate coming to the City Ground recently because they don't really get a lot out of us. And I can still remember being in the Bridgeford end last season as Anthony Elanga sprinted towards us and just scored that unbelievable goal to beat Man United. How do I feel about it today? I probably feel maybe a little bit like the players feel. I feel quite apprehensive in the way that I don't know how it's going to go. I feel confident that Dyche has had a good, solid week without any midweek games to worry about to start drilling these players. He talked about fitness a lot, didn't he, in his post-match interview? So they've clearly been working hard this week in training. Hopefully they've looked at defending and attacking set pieces. I think that would be a really key thing to do. We know that Dyche likes his teams to be defensively solid and also to take advantage of attacking set pieces, which I think we can do. Man United are hoping for their 4th win on the bounce. Hopefully we can stop that trend. Yes, they've got great attacking threat now, but at the back they're still very dodgy. They've also got the, I guess, knowing coming to the City Ground in recent times, they haven't got much out of us. So hopefully that will be playing on their mind. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to the game. I will be there. I'll be supporting them on, and wouldn't it be great if we can A, stop our rot, but B, stop them in their winning run? That would be a great day at the office for me. But equally, I won't go into panic mode if it doesn't all go to plan. But I think confidence-wise, we need to get that Premier League win soon, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. Just before we crack on then, a word for the Trent Navigation and a word from Matt Ford, who obviously loves the nav. See you in 35 seconds.
I always bang on about the big shed when I'm on here, but my God.
Well, your 10 pints of Bass comment still gets used. It's cut on a separate ad for them.
This is such a good place. It's just, I think if I was ever kidnapped and I had to sort of go somewhere in my mind to escape, I think I might even choose the big shed over the City Ground. I think I would just picture myself at the big shed. I mean, 10 pints of Bass and 10 cobs, and I would just sort of stay there psychologically until I was released.
There we go. Now we all know Matt's safe place. Right, let's carry on talking more about the Man United game. As Emily said, Mikey, it's oversimplifying it. And if people watch the opposition preview tomorrow, this goes into more details on what Man United do and how they play. But in very, very basic principle, Man U are good in attack, bad in defence, especially late in games. They're quite vulnerable. How do you want us to go about this game then? That'll play into team selection, which we'll get to. But just in general, how would you like to see us go about it?
Well, for me, I think Emily hit the nail on the head. We've got to tighten up defensively. I know the stat around us scoring hardly any goals is one to be worried about. However, we've been good in recent years because we've been built on a really firm base and a really firm spine, and we've only needed 1 or 2 goals to win a football game. And the quicker we can get back to that, I think, especially at the City Ground, we saw against Porto, the quicker we'll start getting results, should I say. So I think, not that we should sit back at home, but I just think we can exploit them. So their wing backs are almost wingers, aren't they? Diallo, for example, he's not going to do much defending, so there's going to be loads of spacing behind him. So it might almost serve as well to just suck them on a little bit and then try and do what we did in the previous seasons and hit them. I know we haven't got an Anthony Elanga, but we do still have some rapid players on the transition. So for me, I'm not looking to win the game 4-3 or 3-2 or just have a big scrap and just see who comes out on top and let defence go into the mire. For me, it's keep it tight, win your duels, do everything we did against Porto on that Thursday where we were fantastic. We were chucking bodies in the way. And then the talent at the top end of the pitch hopefully will find a way through. And I'm sure when we look at the teams in a minute, you'll see why I'm thinking this and the team that I've put in. So just get back to doing what we're good at. Like competing and being, I sound like Nuno now, being compact. But that is what we're good at. And that's what the players have been told for 2 years. So let's get back to doing it. There is no better central defensive partnership, maybe apart from Arsenal's, than Murillo and Milankovic. So let's get back to them. Let's get Douglas Luiz in the team. You've got Anderson. You've got Gibbs-White. Let's hopefully get Chris Wood back on the pitch. And you think with all of them, we will have chances to win that game. What we can't do is do what we did on Saturday against Bournemouth. It seems like a long time ago. But against Bournemouth, which start really slow, should be 1 or 2-0 down within God knows how long. Letting it go direct from a corner, then letting one by backing off. All the stuff that we hate seeing. None of that, please. Let's be aggressive, front foot, that in the sense that we are competing, not reckless like an Ange team when your centre-backs are on the wing, and I keep going on about that. None of that. But let's just keep our shape, get stuck in, because they won't like it. And they play Bruno Fernandes quite deep now, and he's going to allow you players to run off the back of him, believe me. So we are going to get chances to score. And Forest, I don't know who said this, it might be you, Pete. Forest are a different team when they go 1-0 up to when we're chasing the game. And I just think the best way to go 1-0 up is to do exactly what we did against Porto, scrap, compete, wait for that chance to come. And then Man Utd will have to come out and then we can exploit them. But I'm really positive. I actually think it's a really good game to have, Man Utd at home. I'd be more worried if we had Burnley at home or something like that, because the expectancy, if we're not 1-0 up after 20 minutes, it could flip. With Man Utd, everyone's a bit nervous, a bit hesitant. And I just think that might play into their hands. And they're on a roll. They might be reckless because they're looking for their 4th win. And I'm still not sure about the formation they play. I think there's so many holes in it. And I'm still not sure they're really comfortable at doing it. So in summary, Matt, Forest will get chances. We just need to be smart about how we attack the game and the lineup that we choose. So you don't win a football match in the first 10 minutes, but you can lose it. So I just think the longer it goes on, the more I fancy is to nick it.
We certainly don't want to concede any more goals direct from corners. That's a good starting point. Where do you, Pete, then put the balance between attack and defence? We've discussed chance creation at length. Man U are a team I think we can create chances against, but Dyche's instinct is probably, as Mikey says, get the basics right, as he's talked about himself first. What do you want to see from us?
Well, I think some of that will be answered when we discuss our teams, I guess, because I think mine probably hints at where I'm at on that. I think Mikey's probably sort of hit the nail on the head overall. I think it would be nice to see us getting back to the sort of team that can frustrate a team like Man United for 60, 70 minutes, feel relatively confident in our plan and the way we're playing, and hopefully being, a comfortable 0-0 at that sort of point, and then see the doubts sort of creep in. And that's really where we need to be again, I think, because we've got the bench to then change moments if we can get to that point. I sort of think that, well, I'm overall, I'm sort of interested to see what the players and the staff can do after actually having a week to work together, because, we just had so little time under this management group and the previous one. I just think it's really hard to make any great judgments about anything, to be honest. The season is so unusual for us with the amount of games that we've had and trying to balance it all. So I'm looking forward to seeing a plan that's had time to implement. I'd imagine that Sean Dyche and his staff will have been focused on trying to bring a sort of balance between that lightness and levity to things to give the players that sense of enjoying their jobs again, while also trying to build in a real idea of what they actually want and slowly starting to implement the structures and the sort of identity that they'll hope to see from the team. So that I'm sort of open-minded as to what we'll see. I don't think we should pile too much onto it, but I do think first and foremost we need to get back to being structurally, defensively really solid, frustrating teams, and then hoping that the bits of talent that we have got and the sort of breadth of the squad can make an impact if we feel that gambling with some aggressive decisions off the bench is the way to go. So I'm sort of, I don't know if I'd say I'm optimistic or pessimistic about it, to be honest. I don't feel like there's an enormous amount of pressure on this game, aside from the general context that we need to turn things around soon, because clearly they're a team in great form. And I think a point would be a fantastic result for us. But you're bang on, Matt, in your assessment of them. They have enormous threats up top, and they're starting to come together now. I think you've seen Mbeumo get a brace, and he's been looking threatening for weeks. I think Cunha finally getting on the score sheet, and he has. I think he spoke after was it the last game? He spoke about feeling the sort of the pressure lift off his shoulders and stuff. So there are threats to worry about there, but I do think, as the others have said, you look at the centre of midfield pairing. There's very little mobility. There's very little sort of structure about it, really. And if you can get behind them, there will be gaps. And when you do get behind them, what you're faced with is a back three that is particularly unimpressive. But they've only kept one clean sheet this season, so it's clearly a massive vulnerability for them. So I think there's hope there, as well as threats to consider. And we'll talk about this when it comes to the teams, but I've gone for a sort of slightly balanced approach to try and counter both of those things.
Yeah, they're especially open late in games, and if you watch the Brighton game, that you can get at them certainly. So yeah, we'll get into our team lineups shortly. Just before we do that, this is something Mark sent me about. We were discussing set pieces the other day and the value and importance of them. This is from.
This isn't really nice, is it?
No, I've done this. I put this in the wrong section. It was supposed to have you guys on the screen as well. But anyway, so I did it while Pete was talking. Sorry. This for people who are listening, not watching, or who are watching, it's a chart of set piece XG versus set piece shots. So the horizontal column is the set piece XG created over the season, and we are third last from that. And then the vertical is the amount of shots from set pieces, and we are basically joint last with Wolves. So we're not having shots and we're not creating chances from set pieces. You compare us to Arsenal are the elite, obviously, but we are light years behind Arsenal, Palace and Chelsea, certainly. So it's an area that Dyche is going to absolutely have to address very quickly, for sure, because we're going to be in trouble otherwise, I think. Well, especially with our reliance on that area. Go on, Pete.
I was just going to say, I mean, that's a proper horror show, that slide, because you can't spin any positivity from the fact that maybe you're creating the moments and then just not, you've not been ruthless enough to take them, or you've had a bit of bad luck or whatever. That is just dreadful. But there is a positive spin in that we know Sean Dyche is someone who relies heavily on set pieces and has a record of producing goals and moments from set pieces in chaos and getting structure at the other end. So you'd sort of hope that the only way is up, really. I mean, down doesn't seem to be much of an option given where we're positioned on that graph. So it does feel like that's an area of potential progress. And whilst, some people might just hear someone saying that and think, well, that's just wishful thinking. I think Sean Dyche's record and the fact that he is actually going to focus on it compared to at least one previous manager who just thought, what's the point, in the way he spoke about set pieces, it would lead you to think that there's potential for improvement there.
Hopefully so. Right, let's get into.
There must be, Matt, please, because if there isn't, then what we're going to do, we're all going to have to just give up. Just say yes, please. There's definitely going to be loads of progress.
There's going to be loads of goals. Milenkovic, as he did last season, Milenkovic header against Man United from a corner early in the game. There you go. There's some positivity. Right, let's get into our teams. I really should have named these, but as usual, I haven't. I've done them on the fly. So. Emily, that might be your team. I think it might. Does that look like your team?
That is mine. Yeah.
All right. I'll read it out then, and then we'll go through it. Sells in goals: Savona, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams, Louise and Anderson in midfield, Dan and Doy one side, Callum Hudson-Odoi the other. Morgan Gibbs-White is starting in Emily's team, and then up front is Igor Jesus, although you might play Chris Wood. We'll wait for fitness news. Tomorrow, about 2:00, is Dyche's press conference. So, yeah, talk us through your thinking there, Emily.
Full disclosure, as you probably know, Matt, I haven't put an awful lot of thought into this because I have a very busy work-life balance. You know what it's like. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about it a lot, so I've thrown it together and I've done the easy way out and just gone with basically what we did against Bournemouth. Um,
And Porto.
And Porto, of course, as well, barring Zinchenko, but he obviously went off, didn't he, in the first half. I think obviously the goalkeeper and the back four kind of pick themselves at the moment for injury reasons, etc. So we know about that. And I think the big debating point, isn't it, is in the midfield. Do we sacrifice a winger to make us more compact in midfield, or do we stick with what we've got? And I can see there's an argument possibly for putting Sangare in and maybe sacrificing Ndoye. But I've gone with this team because Sean Dyche played that team against Porto and Bournemouth. Does that mean he feels like that's his strongest lineup? If so, we need to be playing our strongest lineup in the Premier League. I said to you, if Wood's fit, I would certainly play Wood up front. But I don't know where we're at with this fitness. We'll probably find out today in Sean Dyche's press conference. Gibbs-White, we've talked about. Does he need a rest? Does he need some time on the bench? Would it be too risky to give James McAtee a go there? Probably yes, I would say. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a bit. With what Morgan Gibbs-White's been saying about Man United this week, we probably need him in that game to prove that he's fully on board with the Forest story. So that's my team. Very boring. And like I say, I think the only debating point for me is whether you pack that midfield a bit tighter. But I don't know if Dyche will do that.
No, I'm not sure he will. People are saying about the team getting overrun in midfield. So I'll put my team up and go through it. I mean, that is the risk, but my thinking is you don't want to... that's not it, sorry. That's it. I feel like you don't want to remove creativity from a team which creates naff all. So I'll read through my team. Sells, Savona, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams. Everyone's got the same back five, picks itself. Anderson and Louise in midfield, picks itself. And then there's debate about what you do in the attack. I've got Hutchinson in my team, and then Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, and Igor Jesus up front. And I would still pick Igor Jesus regardless of if Chris Wood is fit. When I look at Man U, I feel like they're not mobile. I think we need some dynamism in the team. So I'm hoping Hutchinson does that. And I don't mind Dan Ndoye starting. And if Back was fit, I would probably even start him. But I feel like we need legs that can get around the park and stretch the game, and then add that from the bench. And the bench is really important. I'll come on to that. I would play Morgan Gibbs-White. I know a lot of people wouldn't. I looked up his record against Man U, and I don't know if people put stock in it or not, but he's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 5 games against Man United. So he does seem to, for whatever reason, and we'll come on to his comments, have a knack of playing well against them. And I think he's a player... he feels like a real ultimate arm around him player. If you look at that display that the fans did for him, I think it was the Fulham game, and he absolutely showed up in that game. So I would back him, and I really hope fans in the ground back him and don't get on his back if he's struggling. The big difference with Gibbs-White is I wouldn't be afraid to hook him. Like, Dyche left him on for 89 minutes against Bournemouth, and he was absolutely honking. So if he's playing badly after an hour, that's the difference. I would take him off. And the last point I'll make just quickly is, because Man U feel like they fade in games, it feels like the bench is really, really important in this game. And a McAtee or a Callum Mwendo, who is quite mobile, or Hutchinson off the bench if he doesn't start, I feel can have a big impact in this game. And Dyche, I know he made 3 changes against Bournemouth at half time, but he really, really had to, because we were basically out of the game. He's left his changes quite late otherwise. So I think around 60, 65 minutes, if it's 0-0 or we're 1-0 behind, I hope he makes some proactive changes. And players like McAtee and Callum Mwendo, who can open a door against a team that is a little old or immobile or tired or whatever, I think the bench has got a big part to play in this one. Right, that is my thinking. I'll let the other guys address it, but we'll just do it through their teams. Through Mikey is up next. Same back 5, same midfield 2. Gibbs-White on the right. McAtee does start for him. Hudson-Odoi, and then Chris Wood up front. What's your thinking, Mikey?
You just made a good point there, Matt. I genuinely didn't consider that, so let me have a think about that. But in terms of mine, 2 things came into my head. So we, like you said, Gibbs-White has been struggling. Do you take him out the team, or do you leave him in the team, or do you do what I do and move in positions? So I'm thinking, where I've seen Gibbs-White play really well this season was away at Porto, I think it was. When Betis, yes, when we drew 2-2, and he played on the right, didn't he? And set up that first goal for Jesus, right? So he's really, really good there. So I'm thinking I wouldn't play him on Thursday either in Europe. So for me, he doesn't play in Europe now, probably for the next couple of games. And I'm not saying this is his last chance because it's ridiculous to say that because we're in October. But I just think you have now got the squad, and we now need to see some of those players from that squad, and we need to start playing different teams in Europe. However, this is a very, very important game. And I'm a bit like you, Matt, with what you were saying. I wouldn't be afraid to hook him or hook anybody if they're not performing. So I think James McAtee, I saw him against Sunderland and he was awful, as were a lot of the players. But I just think if you look at his numbers, and I realise he was playing in the Man City side that are very, very good, but, he captained England under 21s to their win. I think he was voted man of the tournament. I don't think he was. I think actually Hutchinson was, but he was good. And I just think he's probably chomping at the bit. It's Man United. He's obviously Man City boy. So I'd get him in the team. I'd see what he's about, see if he can link up with Wood or Jesus if he's playing instead of Wood, and have Gibbs-White right. Because I don't think any of the wingers have really done it, maybe other than Callum. And Doy's in and out. 1 minute, I think he looks really good. The next, not so much. Hutchinson, we've not really seen enough of, although I wouldn't be averse to seeing him at some point in this game. Backer, I think's injured. Don't know if I've missed anybody out, but I just think there's an issue on the wing. And I'm thinking with their wing backs playing so far up, Gibbs-White is not averse to tracking back. But also he's smart and intelligent enough to pick up them pockets of space in behind him. So that's what I'm thinking, and I'm wanting the game to be quite tight as we get into the early stage of the second half, and that's maybe where you can do the changes that you suggested, Matt. So a Backer on, a Hutchinson on, or whoever, even a McAtee if he doesn't start. But I'd be really inclined to see something like this: McAtee dropping maybe slightly deeper to help out, but still having Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi on the pitch to feed Chris Wood if he's fit. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer here. It's just at some stage we need to see James McAtee. We paid 30 million quid for him. And I just think he probably is going to start on Thursday as well. So let's give him 60 minutes here. Let's see if he can get a link up. And then we manage game state for the last third of the game. So like I said, I don't think it's a right or wrong answer, but it's interesting. We've all sort of picked the back eight. Seems to be pretty much the same, doesn't it? Back seven, back eight. And the debate is just around these forward places. And like I said, until we see it on the pitch, we're not really going to know. But I'd like to see a bit more of McAtee because I think he probably was disappointed with his performance against Sunderland and maybe he's chomping at the bit for a start.
Just one more point. This works for Mikey's team as well and my team. You can switch Hutchinson and Gibbs-White around and make it a bit more fluid because Hutchinson can play central and McAtee can switch with Gibbs-White in that team as well. Let's just go on to Pete's team, which is different, quite a lot different. So I'll read it out and he can talk us through it.
Pop on my tin hat before you do it, mate.
Same defence. A midfield three of Dominguez, Douglas Luiz and Anderson. Dan and Doy and Hudson-Odoi on the flanks, and then Taiwo Awoniyi get to start in your team, Pete, which I'm sure will get the chat going. So, Pete, talk us through it.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting a little bit of some pelters for this, but I think there's a few things that felt like sort of non-negotiables for me in this game. The first one is that, as a lot of people in the chat have pointed out, I'm bit concerned that we could be overrun in the midfield where they can form that box. And if we've only got two players in there with, a Morgan Gibbs-White wildly out of form, not really contributing an awful lot in either side of the game, playing in the 10, I think that's a problem. So for me, I need another body in midfield. I see no reason why Dominguez shouldn't be that person. I think he's sort of been oddly forgotten, which I find a bit strange, really. I think he can bring an awful lot of intensity, running, quality on the ball as well to the team. And I was expecting that from Derek. And what I worry about potentially is there's a lot of parts of the pitch where we could face being sort of overloaded. And that's not just through the centre of the pitch, but also perhaps the fullbacks, because we've got wing backs who are very attacking to deal with, while also players like Cunha and Burma who can drift out wide. So you might find people being doubled up on. And this system means we've got Anderson and Dominguez able to help both in terms of giving us the balance in midfield, but also supporting the fullbacks whenever needed. It gives us the chance, I think, to get a real foothold in the game and try and take it deep. Then I think the other non-negotiable really is that you need direct wingers with pace, players who aren't going to check back and who are going to be a threat against that Manchester United backline, particularly if you can get behind the wing backs and attack the wide centre halves. I think Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi are the sort of obvious candidates for that right now. I think there's a sort of clamour, not necessarily a clamour, but there's a sense of people moving on from Ndoye. And I think that personally is just because he's the one who's played the most. But I think there's a reason that he's played the most. And as far as I'm concerned, he's been the best of our wingers relatively comfortably this season. I get that he's been frustrating in parts, and that's because, certainly in the early days, there was a feeling that sometimes he's a bit too weak. Also, it's not quite come off for him necessarily all the time. But he gets a lot of touches in the opposition box. He carries us up the pitch better than others have done. Successful dribbles, lots of good crosses that haven't come off for us, and I don't think that's necessarily any fault of his. I think he's our best threat in that area, and Hudson-Odoi is probably the right person to be on the other side. So yeah, I think it's a team that counters the problems that we're going to face and gives us a chance to go deep in the game, and then we've got a bench that can change it and bring on threats if we know they're a side that can be vulnerable in later stages of the game, as Matt correctly identifies. So that's where I'm at with that. The other two key points, I guess. Taiwo is clearly going to wind some people up in the comments. I think that there's a hysteria around him that is absolutely ridiculous. I get that he's not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing player. I get that he's had struggles with injury and form and all that sort of stuff. But what you need against this Man United side, in my opinion, is someone who can bully those defenders and give us a chance to stay in the game when we're sometimes we need to go long. We need to occupy them. Taiwo can do all that sort of stuff. Look, I don't think that you're picking a striker in this game who's going to be having lots of chances to score the winning goals or whatever. I just don't see Jesus getting much out of it. Certainly in the early stages. I think Taiwo gives you a chance to have a bit of a platform, do a real sort of battering ram job up there, rough up those centre halves, and I think it will hurt them. And then the other big call, I guess, is the Gibbs-White not being in the team. I'm not somebody who would say, right, Gibbs-White has to be dropped because of his form. I've been perfectly happy with the idea of having an arm around him and trying to get him back to his best. But I just think this is the game to do it because I worry that we're vulnerable there, and if you play him wide right, you don't get those attributes that I think you need against this side of being direct and moving into attack quickly, not checking back, not coming inside. I think you need those wingers in there to threaten the United backline. So that's where I'm at with it. I knew that there'd be a couple of pelters in there, but that's fine.
Do you not think Igor Jesus against Porto? I thought he held the ball up well. I think he can do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely he can do. I think it was a much less physical game. He's going to be up against three centre halves as well. I just think it's a game where we could see Taiwo doing the legwork, and he has done that against big sides with big centre halves before. We've seen him be exactly that sort of battering ram for us and just a pain in the arse, frankly. I think this is a better moment for Jesus to be coming off the bench.
Cool. Right, we'll talk more about Morgan on the other side of this short break. A treat for everyone, a property from Home Move Estate Agents. So I'll just go through it. And thanks to Ben at Home Move for their support as ever. This is on Parkgate, Upper College Street, Nottingham. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. It's on the market for 180,000 to 190,000. And it says this fantastic second floor apartment has spacious accommodation, air conditioning, open concept living area with lounge, dining and kitchen zones, principal bedroom with ensuite shower room, a second double bedroom and bathroom. So there you go. Thanks to Ben at Home Move for the support. Click the link. It is in the description, or it will be as soon as we finish this, for the property. And if you're listening, not watching, obviously do click the link in the description. And you can see what else they've got on offer on their website as well if you head over to that. Right. What a treat for everyone. I don't think Emily's heard me do a property read before. I'm not very good at them, but there you go. Right. Let's talk a little bit more about Morgan Gibbs-White just before we finish. I saw this thing on Twitter. I logged on and people going absolutely nuts about Morgan's comments in an interview that he's done with either the Premier League or an Australian channel. And I thought, Christ, what's he said? So I'll just read out what he said. I can't show the clip, don't have the rights, don't want to get. So he said, when he was asked about Manchester United, he said, it's incredible to see. Obviously, they're going through a tough time the last couple of years, but they've stuck with the gaffer. It's starting to see how Man United should be playing. That grit, determination to play for the badge is something the league's missed. All we can do is focus on ourselves. We can't focus on how Man United are doing and how their performances are. If we do that, we're almost bowing down. So we've got to focus on what we want to do and how we can win the game. I feel this week we've already started to implement some ideas, and obviously we've still got a few more days until the game, so I'm sure the gaffer will have more ideas of how we beat them. So I read that's the whole 50-second clip, and I haven't seen anything else on the interview. People have gone absolutely mad, or some people have gone absolutely mad about the first section. Others have said, what are you talking about? It's all overblown. He was asked about Man U, and he just answered it. Emily, I've seen people saying he should be dropped from the squad, dropped from the team, stripped of the captaincy. What do you think about it?
All right, first things first, I'm a journalist, so I know how journalists can get stories out of asking certain questions to people and clipping up certain answers to questions out of context to get the clickbait, because it's all about getting the clicks, isn't it? All about getting the likes, and we're talking about this interview, therefore it's a successful interview. Morgan Gibbs-White most likely will have been asked the question about Man United. I think it's quite well known he's a boyhood Man United fan. We know that, don't we? So maybe they pushed him on that. I don't have a big problem with him talking about that, because it will have all been said in a certain context. And I think any talk of stripping of his captaincy, dropping him, is utterly ridiculous over being asked about a team in the Premier League's form. Joe Roral was on this podcast recently, wasn't he? And he talked about his love for Forest and stuff like that. His current team aren't going to get upset about that. Equally, if Elliot Anderson was asked about Newcastle, he'd probably say something similar. In fact, we saw Elliot Anderson at the Carabao Cup final with his family, and we loved that. So it's totally been blown out of proportion. Someone's put in the comments about Morgan Gibbs-White maybe lacking confidence since he was Elliot Anderson has sort of stepped above him with regards to the England role. I do think he's lacking in confidence. We don't know what's happening privately. We don't know what's happening on the training ground, what's happening in his private life. He strikes me as the sort of guy that is a confidence player, and I think that probably seeing the fallout of what he said probably is not going to do his confidence any good, but I think certainly dropping him for that is utterly ridiculous.
I mean, it's maybe slightly ill-advised to over-egg Man U and use the word incredible, but Morgan, he does these interviews where he actually does say stuff, like where he said, I can breathe and all that stuff. He is a bit more of an open book than, the media training that he's given, and maybe Forest media department will have a word with him and say, don't say that next time. But for me, it's a massive overreaction, I think. I mean, he's asked a question, he's answered it. I read the whole quote out because the second half of it is about beating Man United. So I just think if Morgan was playing better, I don't think people would care. No. If we were playing better, I don't think people would care. And, if we win a few games, Morgan plays better, and these kind of things are swept under the carpet. So it's really nothing in it for me. There's people in the chat who won't agree with that, and that's fair enough. But that's how I see it anyway. Pete, you were variously nodding along and shaking your head. So what do you think?
Sorry, I don't do a very good job of hiding how I feel about things. I don't know. I mean, I didn't see any of this stuff initially because I've been keeping away from Forest social media and things. It's just it's a bit hysterical at the moment. I wish I could be surprised by the madness of this situation, but sadly I've been exposed to the world and the world of social media before, so I'm not surprised. But it is beyond balmy. I don't know how else to put it, really. I mean, this guy is not the Prime Minister. He's a footballer playing for Nottingham Forest, and everyone's jumping on him using the wrong word because he described Man United as incredible or whatever. Listen to the clip. You don't even have to listen to the actual clip, regardless of the whole interview. The interviewer asks him, Morgan, as a student of the game, what do you make of it? He's being asked to come up with a genuine piece of his sort of thoughtful analysis about it. And Morgan, as you say, Matt, is someone who always likes to talk in a way that is, not classic for modern footballers who have been heavily media trained and heavily coached. He does try and say more. He does try and explain his views on things more. And sometimes he's gonna say things that might not be the absolute perfect wording. But also, who the hell are all all of us to be like, you need to say the perfect wording, otherwise we're gonna get on your back. It's absolutely
We certainly don't on here, do we?
Well,
No.
indeed not. I just think sometimes you've got to put a bit of perspective in it, step back and think, how would I feel if people treated me in the way that I am doing to these footballers? And it's just ridiculous. I mean, if I went into the meetings of every office worker who was commenting on Morgan and followed the sort of stuff that they said through their day and in their meetings and all that sort of stuff, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to find as many things to criticise as they do. But obviously, because footballers are on a pedestal, we all think it's fine and fair game. It's not. It's ridiculous. And also, beyond that, it's even more ridiculous because he's one of our players, someone who we desperately need to perform in order for our season to be turned around. And we're all just going to take every opportunity to fire shots at him whenever we can. I mean, if Nottingham Forest haven't done enough harm to themselves this season and the sort of mad decisions that they've made, the way they've gone about things, then, I mean, they certainly have. And we really don't need to pile anything else onto that. I think it's about time that Forest fans, the ones who sort of engage in this sort of craziness, have a look at themselves and think maybe it's an opportunity for us to show that we can be good supporters and drag this lot out of a mess, rather than just compounding every bit of misery that is going on and making it all worse. It's just, I mean, it's mad that I've talked about this for so long. It's mad that we've even really talked about it at all, but it does rile me up. And I think just give the guy a break. And I've done that without swearing, so I feel pleased with myself.
Can I just say something? I'm just totally agreeing with everything Pete said, but also I've just seen quite a few people in the comments saying it's an interview, he's there to ask questions. I would love you to sit and be interviewed on camera and then see how maybe the words come out, because it's not as easy as it looks. It's something that you often have to be trained to do. I'm normally on the other side of the camera asking the questions, which is a hell of a lot easier, I promise you that. So, you know, he said the word incredible. He might not even have meant that. He may have meant something else. He may have meant incredible as in it's quite unbelievable that they've gone from being so bad last season to going on a 3-game winning run. I just think it's all been taken out of context and people just chill out.
Yeah, he's not a thesaurus. Give him a break.
No.
Matt D's comment in the chat, I think I agree with. I mean, you can have a debate about dropping Morgan on form, totally. Yeah. And you can have a debate about taking the captaincy off him and it being a burden on him, totally. That's all. That's all fair game, but I think this is overblown. But if anyone's going to say he's bang out of order and needs to be put in front of a firing squad, it's Mikey Clark. So, Mikey, what do you think?
Yeah, disgrace. Changing my team. No, I agree with what the guy said. I was more offended with Pete picking Tywell up front than I was.
You're not the only one, mate. James in the comments is right on me. He's suggesting I go and get therapy for that one, which seems a bit extreme.
I got the thought process. I thought I'd get it in the neck for McAtee, but as always, Pete, you were the team player and took the heat from me. But no, back to Gibbs-White. No, it's part of one answer, isn't it? You know, if he would have just said that, said see you later and walked off, you probably think, hey, what? But actually, he goes on to say, regardless of that, we need to beat them. We need to put in a performance and beat them. And Emily's right. I've kind of sat on the opposite end and been grilled. And you grilled for about 20, 30 minutes a lot. And God knows if you remember half the things you say. It probably doesn't resonate with some people. Well, I get it. But it literally was part of one answer. And to be honest, if he turns up on Saturday and scores 2 goals and we beat them, this is chip paper, isn't it? Nobody cares. It's just because we're struggling and everything's in the media spotlight and maybe the timing doesn't feel right. But you can't ask footballers to be human beings and complain when they're boring and just give you the same answers when you've got somebody that actually tries to properly answer a question with his own individual thoughts. I don't think it's an issue, to be honest. I just think it's a microcosm of where we're at because we're struggling.
Yeah. Also, just to add, this isn't. I know everyone. It's the sort of fashionable thing now for everyone to blame the media for everything, and that's sort of what we do in society. This isn't a problem of the media. This is a problem of normal people. The media have done nothing wrong. They asked him a really interesting question, and he gave a really interesting answer. And because some people are too tribal to see past the end of their own noses, they've kicked off about it. There's nothing wrong with the situation whatsoever. It's a genuinely interesting little bit of content. So there's no ambushing. I don't think Morgan's done anything wrong at all. And I think everyone bangs on about how boring footballers are and how we can't relate to them and how they never say anything proper in interviews. And then as soon as anyone says anything interesting, it's like, I can't believe he said that. He should have said nothing. He should have shut it down. It's just like it's a mad world. Just chill out.
Yeah, I agree.
It just comes back. If Mikey's right, if he plays better, then it's fine. And hopefully he does play better. And
the players do play badly, don't they? And when they do, like, that's a perfectly natural thing. We all have it, right? I have loads of ups and downs in work and times when I struggle to be motivated, or I know I'm not doing as well as I could be doing. But you need people around you to support you when you have those moments, not people sniping at you from the sidelines.
Emily had her hand up again, which is unnecessary, but carry on.
I don't know why. It's one of those days. I just want you to put up Paul Morley's comment because I totally agree with it. Hopefully the hoo-ha around this interview, where is it? It's gone. Interview gives him extra incentive to show where his loyalties are on Saturday. That's how Dyche should frame it. And I totally agree. Get him to let his feet do the talking. And like Mikey says, if he pops in the winner on Saturday, we ain't going to be talking about some interview he's done where he mentions that Man United have turned things around, which is actually a fact. It's not even conjecture, is it? It's a fact. So, yeah.
Yeah, but if he is playing badly, take him off earlier. That's
absolutely.
I think so. Right, just before we come to final thoughts. In fact, has anyone got any final thoughts on this game? Because we haven't mentioned that Man U have won 3 games in a row, and that idiot could get. Well, he's not an idiot. The fella could get his hair cut, and he's living his life.
I did mention it, Matt. That shows how much you listen. I've mentioned it twice. that we want to break their winning streak. And isn't it 5 games Man United need to win for that guy to cut his hair?
Yeah, so it's us and Spurs for the haircut fella, I think.
But I feel like we need to break it. I think it's our duty to put him back to game 1.
I think so.
Yeah, I refuse to believe that the Man United that has been such a sort of cultural mess for so many years is going to win 5 games in a row and let that mad lunatic off the hook. So it's either going to be us, or is it Spurs they've got next, I think? One of us is going to ruin his Christmas and mean that he's got like an absolutely enormous bush on his head. So fingers crossed it's us.
Yeah, I think all I'd add to that as well is, in my team selection, I was talking about just be a little bit cautious, suck them onto us. The reason why? Go watch that Brentford game that they played literally a couple of weeks ago. It's exactly what Brentford did, and they hit him with 2 long balls in the first 10 minutes and scored. Probably should have had another and score from a set piece. So they are culpable. We will get at them. We just don't need to chuck the kitchen sink from minute 1. Is what I'm saying, because they will let in a goal. I'm pretty confident we'll score on Saturday, and I want us to get back to the state where we only need 1 or 2 to win a game.
That Brentford team, by the way, I looked this up earlier. People saying about being overrun in midfield. They did play 4-2-3-1. And their number 10 is Damsgaard, who is actually quite a hard-working player, even though he's quite slight in build. So, yeah, there's a reliance on Morgan or whoever plays number 10 to do their bit. But, yeah, 2 quick wingers, a striker who can hold it up in Thiago, 2 sitting midfielders in Henderson and Yarmouk, and then Damsgaard pulling the strings, and then absolutely slinging the ball in the box from Coyote. So have we got anyone who can do that? I don't know.
They must have been spending part of this week having some sort of long throw competition, surely.
Yeah, and some corner taking competition.
Yeah.
Can you hit it in this 10-yard area? That'd be useful. There's seen improvement there. Right,
maybe crossing into the box, maybe quick cross into the box, into the mixer, possibly. Yeah.
Quite a few basics to work on over the last week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you cross the ball into this whole area? Yeah, I do think we'll get more crosses in and earlier as well. I think Dyche referenced that we were taking too long to get the ball in the box. So I think we'll see more of that certainly. Right. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add before we go, Emily Williamson?
No, I think I've said my piece, haven't I?
Yeah, lovely. Pete Blackburn?
Oh, I've definitely said my piece.
Good. Mikey Clark?
I've got 2 more things to say. I'll say that. Just hello to Andrew and Darren, who I met in the Trent Nav of the week over from Belfast, I think. Top podcast fans, lovely guys. Great to see you. Just going back to what we're saying about Dyche and his impact on his new teams. And I've just checked, and it's true. His first home game for Everton was, I think, against Arsenal, and they won 1-0 header from a corner. So there you go. So I would take anything like that. It would be brilliant. And if it's boring, don't care, because then build the points up, get back to what we're good at. And these players, these talented players that we spent a fortune on, will come into their own as the season goes on. We just need to make sure we're not adrift at that point.
Yeah. Tarkowski header or something, I think it was. I remember that game.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, Everton were so boring, but they were really resilient. I remember it. Yeah, and that's probably what we need. Chris Kearney, who's been badgering you, and I know is your mate, Pete, all the way through, saying you never had a bad day at work. Sensational on every pod. So there you go. Thank you, Chris.
It's nice to have someone balancing out. Eh?
Here.
Yeah, well, he did take lots of shots at you as well.
I know,
Pod as well. But he's a friend of yours, so that's all good. Right, we'll be back tomorrow, as mentioned, opposition preview with Praz, the Man United fan. So do check that out, and then we'll have a post-match show after the game. Some shameless commercialism now. If you want to invest in some hospitality seats and send some commission my way, click the link in the description, and you can get unique seats for the this game, the Man United game, and every home game. And I'll drop a link in there for that. I think that's about it. Emily Williamson, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah,
Matt D's not you in the comments, is it, Matt?
No, I don't know who that is.
No. Matt D,
if it is, it's a bit schizophrenic because he often abuses me, so that would be bad.
Matt D, I think you're having a bad day, my friend. Now, listen, yes, Dyche has already had his first home game. We're talking about first Premier League game. But listen, enjoy. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I have to mention someone every week.
Good. Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I would so love it to come out that you've been half the people in the comments, just sort of having these mad internal monologues and shouting at yourself and whatever.
My own burner account absolutely hates me. It's possible. It's possible. No, I'm sure Matt doesn't hate me, but I see some. So I do like his opinions, to be fair, because they don't always agree with us, which is fine and good. Mikey, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great seeing you all. And I've enjoyed the chat today. It's good when we're in a bit of a sticky situation at the moment, but we all want us to come out of it. We've all got different theories about how we're going to do it, but it is still early in the season. We've got to try and stay positive as much as we can. And, if we get a good result on Saturday, I promise it will look a lot different next week.
Yeah, and then obviously into Europe and then into Leeds and then an international break. So still opportunities to take some momentum into that, certainly. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for your company. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. Do hit subscribe as well. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.